A man living under a highway overpass in Denver built a fully insulated tiny shelter with a locking door, a rain catchment system, and solar-powered lighting. Total cost, $380. But the average American spends over $30,000 on a prefabricated backyard shed from a big box store. Somewhere between those two numbers, something went seriously wrong with how we think about building. And the people who figured out how to close that gap had no contractor, no YouTube tutorials, and sometimes no tools at all. These are not Pinterest hacks. These are tricks that got tested through real winters and real storms by people who had no budget and no choice but to figure it out. Builders in encampments across Los Angeles, Portland, Denver, and Austin turned necessity into genuine engineering. Some of these shelters have survived years of heavy snow, driving rain, and brutal summer heat, and the 5 costly mistakes at the end have destroyed more budget builds than weather ever could. Number 1. Pallet wood framing. Walk behind any warehouse district in America, and you will find stacks of wooden shipping pallets sitting in the rain, waiting for the garbage truck. Homeless builders figured out years ago that these pallets are free lumber. Not scrap wood either. Heat-treated pallets stamped with the letters HT are structurally sound hardwood. One pallet gives you roughly 14 board feet of usable planks. 3 pallets framed together create a solid wall section. Disassemble them with a pry bar and a claw hammer. Pull the nails, stack the planks, and frame wall panels using butt joints and salvaged deck screws. A builder in Portland constructed an entire 8x10 shelter using 17 pallets and spent $11 on a single box of 3-inch screws. But here is where first-timers get burned. They build the walls, stand them up, and feel proud for about 48 hours. Then the first serious wind hits, and the whole thing racks sideways like a wet cardboard box. The trick that separates experienced builders from everyone else is diagonal cross bracing. Running a brace across every wall panel from corner to corner keeps the structure rigid in high winds. Skip the bracing and you are rebuilding after the first storm. But the next method is what actually keeps the rain out, and it costs almost nothing. Number 2. Tarp and billboard vinyl roofing. Forget asphalt shingles. Forget metal roofing panels. Homeless builders across the country use something billboard companies throw away by the ton: discarded billboard vinyl. These heavy-duty PVC sheets are designed to survive months of direct sunlight, highway wind, and rain while hanging 50 feet in the air on a steel sign frame. When the ad campaign changes, the old vinyl hits the dumpster behind the printing facility. One billboard face covers an entire tiny shelter roof with material left over for wall cladding. Builders in Austin layer the vinyl over a simple ridge beam, pulling it tight and securing it with wooden battens screwed through into the rafters. The slope matters. A minimum pitch of 3 inches per foot keeps rainwater sheeting off, instead of pooling in low spots and leaking through seams. Billboard vinyl's UV resistance lasts roughly 3 to 5 years before cracking. Compare that to a cheap blue hardware store tarp that falls apart in 6 months. Same price of $0, 10 times the lifespan. And the foundation method coming up next is something ancient civilizations used for thousands of years to build structures that still stand today. Number 3, earthbag foundation and insulation. This technique goes back centuries. Fill polypropylene sandbags with the dirt underneath your building site, stack them in offset rows like masonry, and tamp each layer dense with a hand tamper. The result is a load-bearing wall or foundation that naturally resists moisture, insects, and temperature swings. Builders in desert regions outside Phoenix and Las Vegas use earth bags as both foundation walls and thermal insulation. Packed earth absorbs heat during scorching days and releases warmth through cold nights. A single roll of polypropylene tubing from a livestock feed store costs around $15 and produces over 50 bags. The critical detail is barbed wire between courses, 2 strands laid flat between each row, lock the layers together, and prevent sliding under load. Without the wire, bags shift over time and the wall bows outward. A 4-foot earth bag perimeter for a small shelter takes 2 weekends and costs under $40. What goes into those walls for windows and doors is where the next trick saves serious money. Number 4. Salvaged window and door installation. Brand new vinyl replacement windows cost anywhere from $150 to $400 each at a building supply store. Homeless builders pay nothing. Habitat for Humanity restore locations sell used windows pulled from renovation demolition projects for $5 to $20 a piece. Active demolition sites are even better. Contractors tearing apart old houses will often let you haul away intact windows and solid core doors completely free just to save themselves the dump disposal fee. The challenge with salvage is framing. Used windows and doors almost never come in modern standard sizes. A window pulled from a 1950s ranch house is a completely different dimension than anything you will find in a current manufacturer catalog. Experienced builders handle this by measuring the salvaged unit first, then framing the rough opening in the wall a half-inch larger on each side. Cedar shims wedged into the gaps center the window, and a bead of silicone caulk from a dollar store tube seals the edges against drafts and water. A builder in Los Angeles installed 6 salvaged double-pane windows in a 12 by 12 pallet shelter, flooding the interior with natural light and cross-ventilation. His total window cost was $35 from a Restore clearance rack. Number 5. Bucket composting toilet systems. But this next item might be the least glamorous part of any tiny build, and ignoring it is the fastest way to make your shelter completely unlivable. Nobody wants to talk about sanitation, but a shelter without a toilet solution is a shelter you will eventually abandon. The setup is brutally simple. A standard 5-gallon plastic bucket, a snap-on toilet seat lid for about $12, and a supply of dry sawdust from any local woodworking shop. The sawdust is almost always free for the asking. After each use, a thick layer of sawdust covers the waste. The carbon content neutralizes odor almost immediately and starts the composting process. When the bucket fills, the contents go into a dedicated compost pile away from the shelter. Here is the part that matters for budget builders. The entire toilet system costs under $20 and requires no plumbing lines, no septic tank, and no municipal water connection. For a budget tiny home, this single solution eliminates one of the most expensive utility problems in conventional residential construction. A septic system installation starts at $5,000. A composting bucket starts at $12. Now, let us talk about where your drinking water actually comes from when you are completely off the grid. Number 6. Rainwater catchment and gravity filtration. Every roof surface is a water collection system if you engineer the slope correctly. Homeless builders in the Southeast run their tip or billboard vinyl roofing material into angled channels made from PVC pipe, split lengthwise down the middle. These half-pipe channels funnel rainwater into food-grade 55-gallon drums positioned at the low corners of the shelter. 1 inch of rainfall landing on a 10 by 12 roof surface produces roughly 75 gallons of collectible water. But raw rainwater straight off a tarp roof is not safe to drink. Bird droppings, dust, and airborne particulates settle on every roof surface between rainfalls. That is where the real cleverness shows up. A gravity-fed filter built from a stacked pair of 5-gallon buckets, the top one filled with layers of clean gravel, coarse sand, and activated charcoal, produces drinkable water without any electricity or expensive commercial filter cartridges. The activated charcoal alone costs about $8 from the aquarium section of any pet supply store. Builders in rural Alabama and Mississippi have run these catchment systems year-round, collecting enough water for daily drinking, cooking, and basic personal washing. The total material cost for a complete collection and filtration setup runs around $45 using salvaged barrels and standard hardware store PVC fittings. And the next method turns damaged equipment that companies throw away into free electricity for your entire shelter. Number 7. Solar panel scavenging for basic power. Commercial solar farms and residential rooftop installers discard panels constantly. A cracked glass face or a broken junction box connector makes a panel worthless for certified commercial installation, but that same damaged panel still generates 80 to 90% of its original rated wattage. Homeless builders in California and Arizona source these reject panels for free by visiting local solar installation companies and simply asking for their discard pile. A single 100-watt salvage panel wired to an inexpensive PWM charge controller and a recycled car battery creates a functional 12-volt power system. That is enough juice to run LED strip lighting throughout a small shelter all night, keep a phone fully charged, and power a small cooling fan during the worst summer heat. The charge controller prevents the battery from overcharging and costs around $12 from an online electronics retailer. The car battery often comes free from auto repair shops that stockpile dead batteries for core recycling. Many of those supposedly dead batteries still hold a perfectly usable charge. Total cost for a basic off-grid solar power setup using entirely salvaged and discount equipment comes in under $35. Now, I put together a full material sourcing list called the Veteran's Blueprint that covers everything I could not fit in this video, including the exact approach for getting reject solar panels from installers, where to find billboard vinyl before it hits the dumpster, and which building code workarounds I am not going to say out loud on YouTube. The link is the first thing in the description. Grab it now before you forget. Let us keep moving because this next insulation method is one of the most overlooked budget building tricks out there. Number 8. Insulation from recycled materials. Fiberglass insulation bats from a home improvement store run roughly $1 per square foot. For even a small shelter, those rolls add up fast. Homeless builders skip the store entirely and go straight to the recycling bin. Shredded corrugated cardboard packed tightly between exposed wall studs creates a surprisingly effective insulation layer. The trapped air pockets in crumpled and layered cardboard fibers reduce heat transfer nearly as well as entry-level commercial fiberglass batting. Now, cardboard alone gets you partway there. But the real trick is layering. Builders tape Mylar emergency blankets to the interior face of the wall studs before packing in the cardboard fill. These thin reflective blankets cost about $2 each at any camping or surplus store and bounce radiant body heat back into the living space instead of letting it bleed through the walls. The combination of Mylar reflection on the inside and cardboard air trapping in the cavity keeps shelter interiors surprisingly comfortable in outdoor temperatures, down into the low 20s. Another free source of rigid insulation is expanded styrofoam packing material from appliance deliveries. Electronics retailers and appliance showrooms throw away cubic yards of shaped styrofoam protective packaging every single week. Cut to fit between studs and friction pressed into the cavities, it provides rigid insulation with a CMR value per inch of thickness. Total insulation cost for a complete tiny shelter using these salvaged methods rarely exceeds $15. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. I cover a new build strategy every single week, and the next one involves a $3 material from any hardware store that replaces a product that normally costs over $100. The next method might be the most valuable of all because it replaces the single most expensive line item in any construction project. Labor. Number 9. Community build networks and labor swaps. Hired labor is the hidden budget destroyer that sinks every affordable build. A licensed carpenter charges $40 to $60 an hour. A plumber charges even more. Homeless builders solved this problem years ago by forming mutual aid networks where construction labor gets traded instead of purchased. In cities like Portland, Denver, and Austin, organized community build groups host weekend construction events where everyone works on each other's shelters in rotation. You help frame someone's pallet walls on Saturday morning, and they come wire your salvaged solar panel on Sunday afternoon. No cash changes hands, just skills, sweat, and shared tools. Veterans especially benefit from these build networks. Organizations connected to veteran support communities regularly host construction weekends where former military members with engineering and construction MOS backgrounds lead the actual work crews. The discipline, teamwork, and mission focus translates directly from active service into shelter construction without skipping a beat. Tool libraries have also expanded into most major American cities over the last several years. For a small annual membership fee, sometimes as low as $20, you get full access to circular saws, cordless drills, framing levels, and specialized tools that would cost hundreds of dollars to purchase outright. The last of the 10 methods might surprise you because it changes the entire design philosophy of how a tiny shelter gets planned from day one. Number 10, modular and portable design principles. Permanent construction creates permanent problems. Building permits, structural inspections, foundation engineering requirements, zoning violations, and property disputes. Homeless builders sidestep all of this by designing shelters that bolt together for living and come apart in hours for moving. The modular approach uses individual wall panels, roof sections, and floor platforms that connect to each other with carriage bolts instead of nails or permanent screws driven into the framing lumber. 4 bolts per panel joint. When the builder needs to relocate, they unbolt the panel connections, stack the flat sections, and transport the entire disassembled shelter on a small utility trailer or even flat in the bed of a standard pickup truck. This portable panel design also ducks under building code triggers in many county jurisdictions. Structures below a certain total square footage, typically between 100 and 200 square feet, depending on the specific county ordinance, often fall completely outside the local permit requirements. Experienced builders research the exact threshold number for their location and intentionally build 1 square foot under it. A collapsible roof system using hinged ridge beams lets the entire roof assembly fold down flat against the top of the stacked wall panels for compact transport. The complete shelter goes from fully standing structure to flat-packed cargo in under 3 hours with 2 people working. Now that you know the 10 building methods, you need to hear the 5 mistakes that waste the most money and destroy the most builds. And number 3 on this list has actually led to finished shelters getting flattened by bulldozers. Mistake number 1, skipping moisture barriers. This is the silent killer of budget construction. A $20 roll of 6mm polyethylene sheeting from any hardware store creates a critical moisture barrier between the bare ground and your floor platform, and between your wall insulation and the exterior wall cladding. Skip this step and ground moisture wicks straight up through the wood framing, saturates your insulation fill, and breeds thick black mold colonies within 3 to 6 months of occupancy. Builders who skip the plastic sheeting to save $20 end up tearing apart and completely rebuilding their walls within a single year. That forced rebuild costs far more in replacement materials and wasted labor hours than the original construction ever did. $20 of vapor barrier sheeting now versus $300 in rotted lumber replacement later. The math answers itself, but at least moisture damage takes months to show up. This next mistake starts hurting you the moment you move in. Mistake number 2, using pressure-treated wood indoors. Pressure-treated lumber is cheap, resists rot, and seems perfect for a budget shelter. The problem is, what makes it rot-resistant? Older pressure-treated wood contains chromated copper arsenate, that is arsenic infused into the fibers. Breathing the sawdust from cutting this lumber or sleeping inches from it in a sealed shelter creates real health risks over time. Even newer ACQ-treated lumber off-gases copper compounds in enclosed spaces. Outdoor decking and ground contact applications are fine, but interior framing and sleeping platforms are not. Use untreated pallet wood, salvaged interior lumber, or heat-treated wood for anything inside the living space. The savings are never worth the respiratory problems that show up 6 months later. And those health problems are at least fixable. This next mistake can cost you your entire build in a single afternoon. Mistake number 3, ignoring local building code and zoning laws. This is the mistake that gets finished shelters demolished by a county work crew with a front-end loader. Every county and municipality maintains building codes, zoning regulations, and setback requirements. Building on land you do not own or exceeding the allowable size without a permit gives code enforcement the legal authority to demolish your shelter. In some jurisdictions, that order comes with zero advance notice. Before you build anything, research the rules for your location. Some counties allow structures under a certain footprint without permits. Some mandate setback distances from property lines. Some ban habitable structures entirely on certain land classifications. A 30-minute visit to the county planning office or a quick search on the assessor website tells you exactly what you can and cannot build. Ignoring this step has cost builders every dollar, hour, and board they invested. Now, assuming your shelter survives code enforcement, the next mistake quietly eats your budget from the inside. Mistake number 4, oversizing the build. A bigger shelter feels better in your imagination. More floor space, more storage room, more comfort, but every additional square foot you add to the footprint increases your material requirements, your construction time, and your structural complexity on a steep curve. A 12 by 12 shelter demands nearly twice the lumber, roofing vinyl, and insulation fill as an 8 by 10 design. The total budget jumps from comfortably under $500 to well over $1,000, and suddenly the entire point of a budget build collapses. The proven sweet spot for functional budget tiny construction is between 60 and 100 total square feet of interior floor space. That is enough room for a comfortable sleeping platform, a small work surface or fold-down desk, and basic vertical storage shelving. An 8 by 10 shelter with a simple single-slope shed roof lands at 80 square feet and keeps the material list short enough to haul everything in a single truck trip from the supply sources. Build exactly what you need to live in, not what looks impressive on paper. And even if you nail the size, this last mistake will rot your build from the inside out where you cannot see it happening. Mistake number 5, no ventilation planning. A tightly sealed shelter traps moisture generated by your own breathing, any indoor cooking, and your body heat throughout the night. That warm moisture rises and condenses on the cold interior surfaces of the walls and ceiling, soaking through your insulation fill and quietly rotting your wood framing from the inside out where you cannot even see the damage happening. Within a few months, the interior air quality drops noticeably, and the hidden structural decay accelerates. The fix is simple: passive ventilation that costs almost nothing. 2 small rectangular vents cut into opposite walls near the roof line create natural cross airflow that continuously pulls warm, moist air up and out of the shelter interior. A piece of fine mesh window screen stapled over each vent opening keeps flying insects from entering. The total cost for 2 vent openings and 2 pieces of cut screen runs about $8. Experienced builders across the Pacific Northwest, where seasonal rain and persistent humidity destroy unventilated shelters the fastest, treat proper airflow planning as completely non-negotiable from the very first design sketch. Ventilation is the difference between a shelter that holds up for 5 solid years and one that rots apart quietly in a single wet season. These 10 methods and 5 mistakes represent thousands of hours of trial and hard-won success from builders who had no contractor, no budget, and no second chances. The thread through every technique is resourcefulness, finding value where everyone else sees waste, turning dirt, pallets, billboard vinyl, and cracked solar panels into something livable for under $500. So now you know the 10 methods, the 5 mistakes, and where to source every material for under $500 total. Do not forget to grab the Veteran's Blueprint from the first link in the description for the sourcing details and code workarounds that did not make it into this video. Next week, I am tearing apart a shelter that a viewer built using these exact techniques to show you what worked, what failed, and what nearly collapsed in the first storm. Subscribe so you do not miss that. YouTube thinks you need to watch this video next. Click it.